How's it going, guys? My name is Frank and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing our monthly analysis for the month of March. Something has finally happened in the markets outside of just chopping and churning, so we've actually got a little bit more to talk about this week, or this month, sorry. So in this video, we're just going to be going through what has happened in the month of February, what our thesis is for the rest of the, or not only March, but the rest of the year, and what we expect to come based on price action in the charts, and of course, just go over my overall thoughts, of the market at this current point in time, where we are in this bull market, where we've got to go. Now, of course, if you do enjoy this sort of content, remember to hit that subscribe button. We are at 941 subs. We are pushing for 1,000 subs by the end of this year. Hopefully, if we can't get 60 subs in the next, 300 days, we're struggling. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, push us up to 1,000 subs. We do a whole bunch of different content. And of course, if you are looking for receipts, what we've been thinking throughout this bull market, do go back and check out some of my prior monthly analysis videos. They'll be all there. You'll be able to go back and find them. There's another one, December. Where's January? January will be here somewhere. But there's January, right? They're all there. Just go back and check them out if you are curious on how our opinions have changed and molded, because the markets are ever changing. So are our opinion. Now, as always, we do go over the 4-year cycle, which we've been following very, very closely. Of course, we're going to run through this very, very fast. What we see typically is from the peak, 1 year down, 2 years across to the prior all-time high, and then 1 year of a parabolic move. 1 year down, 2 years across, 1 year parabolic, 1 year down, 2 years across, 1 year parabolic. So obviously that leaves us in what we are considering the parabolic stage. Now, obviously this chart doesn't look like it's going very parabolic. If anything, it looks like it's going down, or it feels like it's going down for everyone who's been in the market, at least the last couple of weeks since we hit 100K. But another thing that we were looking at in prior videos was that we do typically see one significant pullback during this parabolic final year, or 11 months. You can see in cycle 1, or like the very first cycle, we did see a significant pullback, 4 bars into the green period. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and we did have quite a significant downtrend. You can see from the peak, if we can get this, to the low, was about 75%. So obviously that's a massive correction. This peak here to trough was about 40%. This one here was about 50% from memory. 55%. And here we are now back at our current cycle, and we were sort of looking at the potential of a significant downturn. We were looking possibly at sort of that 4 to 5 months in, because obviously that's just where prior cycles had been. But I guess we could readjust here and consider maybe this is sort of the pullback, right? We're down almost 30% from the high at this point in time. Is that enough to reset the market? That's sort of the question. But I guess, taking a step back, the other thing that we've been looking at is, is the market breaking down? Are things getting bad? What is going on? And it's one of those things of, if you just zoom out, everything becomes a lot clearer. We are still holding above all of our trend lines, all of our, higher low or higher swing tops, higher swing bottoms. What we were talking about last month was that, whilst we were in sort of the chopping churning range, is that if we don't break out, we're going to break down, right? And if we do break down, we got a lot of room to breathe. We can come down to the prior highs at, we'll say about 73,000. We could come down, test that. We could even come down lower into this area, all the way down to 49,000. 49,000 would be, would be cause for concern, in my opinion. But you can still come into this area, whether it be a wick, whatever it might be. But at this point in time, it's still holding up very, very high. This next month could be red, and we could come down lower. But we just got to wait and see. And as you guys will see in the daily chart, it does look pretty good. But on the macro scale, things are looking, everything's holding up. It's, no cause for concern at this point in time. If you're a long-term trader, only holding Bitcoin, may be different if you're holding a lot of altcoins, but Bitcoin holding up very well. Maybe this is the start of that one retracement that we do get. It's hard to really say in the moment, but it is just important to sort of take this zoom out, right? Because whilst things like your fear and greed index have gone to extreme fear, dropping all the way down to 10. It won't let me highlight it, but that is 10. that point there just a couple of days ago, and yeah, my webcam isn't covering the chart. You can also see liquidations picking up. So this was a extreme event, but on the grand scheme of things, you can see it doesn't really look all that bad, right? This downturn here was much bigger, much longer, and this one feels quite small in comparison when you zoom out, of course. So that's what we want to see as the bull market kicks up for longer, right? We want to see these, things get more and more volatile until they eventually explode. And, as a part of that, it means that, downturns are going to be shorter. You can see this one was 5 bars, and this one is, really only 1 bar at this point in time, or maybe 2, depending where you measure from. So there is a potential couple more months that we could see, maybe even a little bit of a lower price to make the moves a bit more extreme. But this is, on the grand scheme of things, a healthy correction. If we take a look at things on the monthly chart, what I've been looking at is a lot of our Fibonacci retracements. So first and foremost, is this the right one? Not that one. Maybe this one. This one. Okay, so 50% level from this low to this high. It pretty well bounced off extraordinarily from 79,000. That was a very, very important point that, we want to hold this level. Not only did we hold it, we bounced away very fast. The other one I was looking at, this kind of gets a bit congested when you look at it like this, but just this retracement level from this, oh, hang on, if we actually line it up properly, I don't know if this is going to work. I think that works, but you can see another retracement level from, this point here, 150% of this move takes us down to 80,000. So there's a bit of congestion you can see around this $79,000-$80,000 level. So that's somewhere where I was looking at yesterday when I was, looking at the charts, and I saw, a red candle all the way down into the 70s with no sign of bouncing. I was quite worried, but this bounce away looks really bullish, at least short term, in my opinion. Maybe not long term. That's, a different story, what happens in the long run. But at least short term, this does to me look like we could see a pretty strong bounce. The other reason I do say that is because if I fix this chart, hang on, I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit. There we go. That'll do. What you can see is the RSI has dropped to, very, very low level on the daily chart. So I just want to look at other points in time where whilst we're on 50% levels, we'll tidy this up just a little bit. If we pull up the other major 50% from the cycle low to the cycle high, we're looking at 62,000. So that is another level. If we pull up the 2.5 level as well, you can see a bit more congestion around this level here. So if this 80,000 doesn't end up holding, which at this stage it looks okay. It was a good bounce away for the close, which is what we want to see. But if this doesn't hold up, the next level is obviously that 70,000. Definitely expect something there because that is where a lot of the old highs sit. And that is also a bit of a round number, right? 70,000 round number. And then the next one is just $62,000 to $61,000. That is obviously the macro 50% that we were just talking about for the entire cycle, right? Cycle low to cycle high, and then slicing through the middle. It doesn't look like it's in the middle, but that's just because we're on a logarithmic chart, so it's a bit distorted, but you get the idea. So in my opinion, this is the lowest level we would theoretically like to see if this was to be quite a significant pullback. But as we're talking about, what we want to see is these pullbacks become shorter and more volatile as the bull market continues. So hopefully, it'd be nice if this was it, if this is all we get, just a capitulation and then a spring away and things continue, but we'll just have to wait and see, right? Early signs are good because, you get that nice wick down, close higher, fear and greed's terrible, liquidations are high. That is all good signs early on, but only time will tell, right? You can, hedge your bets either way, but, good early signs. Let's wait and see if things do turn worse. We're looking at these lower levels, 71,000, 62 to 61,000. But the other thing that we were looking at is when the RSI drops, to these absolutely critical, significant levels, we just ping the bottom of this line with a horizontal line. And just look at history, other times when we've gone this low on the daily RSI, because it typically, from what we'll look at here, it does mark bottoms. What type of bottoms is a different story, but as you can see, things got really quite fearful during this period here. This obviously ended up being the low of 25,000 before we ran up, pretty well straight away to 75,000. So a good buying opportunity. Obviously, the exact cycle low, just about, or not quite the exact cycle low, but about as, this second, third lowest day you could buy Bitcoin this cycle, November 9th, 2022. Good opportunity to buy on that low RSI. The other one, we continue across. We can see here, this is, just ultimately just another bounce in things. But I mean, 18,000 is still a pretty, in hindsight, a good price to buy. So the other side of the coin is that, whilst a lot of these ones, 1, 2, 3 have been, possibly good buying opportunities, is that this one that we're looking at back in January of 2022, when the RSI dropped considerably low, ended up just being a dead cat bounce. Now, is that the case here? Is this just the first dead cat bounce? Well, we're going to have to pretty well wait and see where the highs come in, right? If we do put in a significant lower high and then come back down to retest the lows, that would be cause for concern, because this, yeah, so you guys can see that, but like whether we just sort of come back up and then just get rejected again, that is the question. It's hard to really say, but if we go back through, same thing again, right? We can go through all of these. They all paint a pretty similar story. This one was not quite the bottom, but I mean, if you zoom in on like where the actual wick ended up, at 30,000, that did end up being pretty well the low. This one here, great buying opportunity during COVID crash. This one here, probably a little bit early, probably, because we're just gearing up at that stage. So hard to sort of say, right? It's all 50-50, but what we do see is that these do often turn out to be lows nonetheless, whether they're, buying opportunity lows or whatever it might be. I do expect this to be some sort of low in the long term, whether we go up, put in a higher low, or sorry, put in a lower high and come lower, or whether this is the continuation of the bull market. That's the question, but I do think this is a good start for a temporary low at a minimum. Ethereum is still underperforming massively. In fact, it is broken down of its trend line that we've been talking about for a long time, and is retesting some of the lows. So pretty bad situation, I think, if you're an ETH holder. A lot of people have been, saying that ETH is, gearing up. It's going to finally run sooner or later, but we just have not seen that be the case. What we were talking about last month is that, pretty well worst case scenario would be is that we come down, break a lot of these lows, and then essentially if we just come, or if all that happens is we come up, retest something like this and then come back down, that is worst case scenario. We are, at the start of that scenario quite possibly. So, we need to see some serious strength come out of ETH, in my opinion, very soon. This has already been a lagging, cryptocurrency. This cycle really hasn't put in many gains at all from, the lows at $1,000. If you were good enough to buy at $1,000, that's probably not even, I don't think anyone would have an average buy-in of $1,000 from this cycle. You're barely 2x up, right? Whereas Bitcoin, obviously, even if you bought it at 20,000, you're up well over 4x, you're up over 5x. So Bitcoin obviously performing a lot better. ETH looking pretty weak at this stage. I'm not too confident on this at this point in time. Who's to say it doesn't rally later? But right now, Bitcoin looking a lot stronger. Solana is looking absolutely terrible. You can see all these 50% levels that we've drawn up on the chart. They are just getting sliced straight through, no resistance whatsoever. This pink line is the macro 50% from the cycle low at $8 all the way up. If we keep going, oh, don't want to move that, but if we keep going up all the way to the cycle top and then sliced in half, $150, we have just seen that break and looking like it could even come up. Worst case scenario, as we said, break, come back up, retest, and get rejected. Sol is not looking good whatsoever. We've been talking about Solana for a long time as being one of the strongest altcoins this market, and that is just not the case anymore. We were talking about Solana back here at about $80 originally, and if you guys follow me on Twitter, this was over a month ago now. This was in January. January 21st. So if we zoom in, January 21st was this bar here. We were talking about selling Solana. Now, maybe I seemed crazy at the time selling my Solana, off the back of all this fantastic news. The Trump token just been launched on Solana. Everything was going gangbusters. I didn't like the look of the chart. based on numerous factors that we went through on last month's monthly analysis video. So if you want to have a look at that, that would have come out February 1st, give or take. So February 1st, it takes us back to this candle here. So this was before the collapse. So it's a good insight into just, my thoughts at the time prior to things dropping, essentially off a cliff. But, obviously a good time to sell Solana into the hype. That was the big key message, is that sell Solana into the hype. Yes, I still hold some Solana. I didn't sell all of it. I didn't sell my entire bag at the top. But I also, I was buying around $80. So, in this sort of area here is when I did most of my accumulation. So, still, there's a lot of my Solana that's still, in profit, at break even. The Solana that I sold up here was all sold at profit. So, it's all hindsight now, but this is looking like a very weak chart. We've been talking about this for a while now. We're talking about Solana back in November and December basically being not a buy anymore, not buying Solana. We spoke about it in January being a sell, and now we're down at these levels here. It's looking really weak. Another thing that we were looking at is that it's likely that the tops are in for a lot of altcoins. I think Solana is one of those. Maybe we go a little bit higher if I can get rid of this just because it's so massive. Maybe, this is just a bit of a correction. Maybe we do go a bit higher, but I think even if we are able to get higher, I don't think it's going to be significant enough, like your risk versus reward, to be buying Solana here and, hoping for higher prices. Maybe it does. I'd love for it to go higher, right? I still hold some, but I'm just not too sure. I think we might get a bit of a dead cat bounce. Possibly if things, turn out pretty good, maybe some rejection. We'll have to wait and see, but Solana's definitely not one of my favorite tokens right now. Not buying Solana. If anything, looking at opportunities to continue to get out. CRO token we've been looking at the potential of a 60% reduction for quite a while now. We actually got a little bit more of a reduction, but this was to be expected. We've been talking about this for a long time now. Same thing. If we go back, we were talking about Crow on November 16, basically saying, if this 50% doesn't hold, which it didn't, obviously, we're looking at a much longer correction. 50% did not hold. And then we were looking, I need to go back up a bit further. We're looking at possible bullish divergence with Bitcoin sentiment resetting, could at least see an intermediate low for CRO. Of course, if this wasn't the low, pretty well expect a 60% correction. We're talking about this back in Jan 10th, so a couple months ago now. And then you can see I did follow this up where basically, price did, we did see an intermediate low that we were talking about, but obviously rejected off the 15 cents. We were talking about we want to maintain structure now and break 15 cents. We didn't break 15 cents. We ended up actually going lower, and that's where we now see our 60% correction. So we've been talking about this for a long time now. It's not really surprising. If you go back to last cycle, this is pretty well what you see, right? 70%, 70%, 67%. This is what you come to expect with an altcoin like this. The good news is that, we are still holding monthly swing lows. Similar to Bitcoin, we got a nice wick into sort of that critical buy area that we've been hovering around quite a bit. So whether this, holds again, who's to say, right? But what we are looking at is, hopefully if this is the low, this is, 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3, and then maybe we get that big rally, something like that, once altcoin season actually starts. So that's our, sort of been our thesis for a long time now with CRO. We were talking about 10 cent, around that 10 cent range being your buy zone, if it's under 10 cents for a long time now. If you're smart enough to sell out at the tops here, well done. But we'll have to wait and see what happens a bit more with time for CRO. Of course, if we look at it, if we zoom out a bit further, it's obviously not a great looking chart, but the good news is that, we have started to find some support along these lows, and now we just want them to hold so we can get, what is essentially the big final push up. And last but not least, Bitcoin dominance. We've been talking about this for a little while now. We were wrong. We didn't expect it to go as high as it did. Not many people did. But what we have been talking about for a little while now is the idea that basically we'll see a lower or a higher low get put in. So I don't think these lows along here will be broken this cycle. I think we'll stop somewhere, in this zone, and we will continue up in the long term. I think Bitcoin is king, and I think we'll start to see that take shape again. We do have this kind of interesting wedge on the RSI, so we could possibly, we see these points when we hit this be the top, maybe not the exact top, right? You can see, it's hard to really say, right? Actually, it's maybe a month early of an indicator, but essentially when we get to the top of this wedge, we do see the RSI come, or the Bitcoin dominance start to come down. Whether we are ready for that yet or not, you tell me. I haven't been good at calling Bitcoin dominance so far. At the moment, we're still in the position we've been in for the past, months and months on end, where until something breaks down, till, some swing lows or something like that changes, you're basically foolish to be betting against Bitcoin dominance. So let's wait and see, right? Time will tell. I guess, I have seen some people calling possible, double tops, with these two zones being possible double tops. Maybe that's the case. But until, we start to see some of these lows get taken out, higher lows, rejections, things like that. I'm not jumping on the horse yet. I'm just gonna continue to, stay as I am. Assume Bitcoin dominance will, keep going up, or at least maintain its structure on the, at least for some time yet. But we just got to wait and see, right? It's hard to bet against Bitcoin at this point in time. Maybe once we see some more quantitative easing, we'll see things kick off, but it's hard to really say. So I think that covers everything we need to touch on this video. As we've been saying, we go back to Bitcoin on Coinbase. If we pull this back to the daily chart, just a quick summarize on what we are thinking on Bitcoin is that this is a good close. This could mark at least an intermediate low. It's looking likely that it will mark some sort of low. Is that the continuation of the bull market low? Is it a dead cat bounce or a complacency bounce? Only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see once we get there. But at this point in time, hopefully this is the low. I'd love it to be, right? We'd all love it to be the low, but time will tell. So if you did enjoy, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. If you want to use some of my referral codes, feel free to use those as well. They're free in the description below. They're all exchanges and things that I use myself. So I, all in the same boat, right? It helps you guys, it helps me and the channel out. So feel free to use those. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.